friends, it's good to see you again. I'm Courtney with Cake by Courtney, and today we're making my apple cider donut bundt cake. This is one of my favorite cakes on my blog, in my cookbook, just in general. It's so delicious. It's especially fun to make during the fall when apples are in season and you can get fresh apple cider from the store or the market. You guys are going to love it. It's so simple to make too. That's half the love affair that's going on right now. It's just how easy it is to make, and it is so moist, so flavorful. I know you're going to die for it. So the recipe link is in the caption, but let's get started. Let me show you how to make it. So first thing we're going to do is take our dry ingredients, which include our flour. That's all-purpose flour. We have our baking powder, some salt. There we go. A little bit of nutmeg, and then some cinnamon. Let's whisk these together, and then we'll just set this aside as we start to put together the other ingredients. Now, this cake is really, really moist. We've got applesauce, we've got oil, and we have our apple cider juice. Now, you're gonna probably laugh with me here for just a minute, but there have been moments where there's a little confusion maybe on apple cider, and some people like immediately go to apple cider vinegar in their head. We're not using apple cider vinegar. We're using apple cider as in the juice. So you will see that defined in the recipe, but just in case you're wondering, it's the apple cider that is the juice that you want to drink, okay? Let's set that aside for just a minute, and I'm gonna grab just a big mixing bowl, and I'm gonna stick with the whisk. I'm gonna stick with the whisk, all right? We're gonna add our oil in our bowl here. And then I'm using both granulated sugar and some brown sugar. So we've got some good flavor there with the brown sugar. Just adds a little like richness with the molasses there in the brown sugar. And so I'm gonna just stir these together. You can grab a hand mixer if you'd like. You can grab your stand mixer, but sometimes I just like to show you and remind you that a lot of these recipes on here can be made with just the mixing bowl and a whisk, or even just a hand mixer. Like, they're that easy. So we're getting all those ingredients mixed. All right, now that the sugar and the oil is mixed, let's add our eggs, which we're just gonna do 3 eggs. Remember, they need to be room temperature. That helps your cake get a really good texture. So everything mixes really evenly. We can get it fluffy. And using cold ingredients makes it dense, and it's not gonna rise very well. Ooh, almost broke that one too much. Okay, then also a little vanilla, and we're gonna mix those ingredients, and it doesn't take much. We're just giving it a good stir so the eggs are incorporated. Now we're gonna add some applesauce, and then we'll start alternating our dry ingredients with the apple cider juice. And that's basically it. So we've got our applesauce, and you can use unsweetened or sweetened, whatever you have. I just usually grab what's already in the house since we already have applesauce here most of the time. Stir that in. All right, and this is gonna look kind of liquidy. Do not let that make you nervous in any way. It's gonna be kind of thin, totally okay. So we've got all those liquids together. Let's start alternating our flour mixture that we stirred up at the beginning. And I'm just gonna do it in 3 different batches with the flour. And then we'll add this as we're stirring. So just half of that. With the applesauce and the apple cider, the flavor is so good. This was actually inspired by apple cider donuts at a barn down in, gosh, probably about 45 minutes south of me in Santa Quinn. It's called Rowley's Red Barn. And I would take the kids there when they were little. They're both big now. But when they were little, I would take them there, and we would go to the pumpkin patch, and we'd go do all the fun, like October, fall, just Halloween things that they had, the corn maze. But we always finished our visits in the market and getting the apple cider donuts. They also had an apple cider slushie that was so good, but I fell in love with the donuts. That was my favorite thing to get anytime we visited. And I was like, I just need to create like a cake that tastes like this donut. This is that cake. Now I can kind of have those donuts anytime I want. I just make this cake. Gives me the same vibes. All right, look, so kind of thin. We are not too worried about that, all right? Now I've already prepared my Bundt pan. I love the Nordic Ware Anniversary Bundt pan. It's a 12-cup Bundt pan and it's nonstick. It does so great. Like it bakes your cake beautifully. It's big enough for all the different Bundt cake recipes. Love the classic shape. So that's what we're using today. I sprayed it already with my nonstick spray and then I just dusted it with flour. So now my pan is completely ready to go. So let's get all our batter in there. Make sure it's all scraped up from the bottom. Okay, perfect. So this is gonna go in the oven for about 55 to 60 minutes at 325 degrees Fahrenheit. We're gonna let it cool completely in the Bundt pan. That is a tip, don't forget. That's a tip to make sure your Bundt cake comes out without sticking to the sides. So you wanna prep the pan, of course, just like we talked about, but letting it cool completely in the pan is going to help it not stick. You might think like that's not the case, like it would stick the longer it sits. Actually, it helps so much for the Bundt cake to come out super clean. Now, once this is done baking and it's cooled and we flip it and we turn it onto the cake stand, we're gonna put a little something extra on it. I have got some coarse sugar and a little bit more cinnamon, and we're gonna melt some butter, and we're gonna put the butter on the Bundt cake. It's gonna be so good. And then we'll add our cinnamon sugar mixture. So you get this kind of like crunch on the outside. But first, let's get this in the oven. Look at her. Isn't she gorgeous? This Bundt pan shape is such a classic one. Turns out so well every time. Now, she's not done yet. We're gonna add just a little bit of melted butter along the side. So remember, I let the cake cool completely in the pan and then I just flipped it out onto my cake stand. And this butter is gonna help that cinnamon sugar mixture that we're gonna make here in just a minute stick to the side. So we're just gonna add this on. It'll get a little messy. Do not worry about it dripping. You can always clean that up later, but we just wanna make sure it's got a good covering of that butter so that everything sticks really well. And because it's cooled completely and it's at room temperature, the cake that is, I think the butter sticks better to the side. Like it doesn't just soak into the cake. So we've got some of that on there. Now I've got my coarse sugar. So that's the turbinado sugar. And I'm gonna add some cinnamon to it. So let's just whisk those together. And then I'm just gonna pour this in my hand. And we are just going to just like put it right onto the side of the cake, just with my hand is usually what I do. So we've got a good flavor here. We love the crunch of that coarse sugar. Okay, there we go. So I'm just gonna start kind of letting it fall on the sides, and you can just kind of pat it into place as you're doing that. Let's make sure all our cinnamon is mixed in. Yep, okay. And again, we'll get kind of messy. You could even put this on a different plate to get started with. But get that on the top and you can just kind of pat it into place. We'll grab some of this after I use the rest of it, and we'll keep putting it on the sides. So let's give it a turn. All right, we just got all the cinnamon sugar coating on. It's a little messy, but look how pretty that sugar is, just those crystals. I love how it just really makes it feel like an apple cider donut. So we gotta cut in. You guys, let's take a look at the inside. I love seeing the texture. And you are gonna get so much flavor. You are not gonna be sad about not having a frosting on this, all right, or a buttercream. Oh, you can just see it is just so moist. And once you dig in and take your first bite, and you get a little crunch from the cinnamon and sugar, and the flavor, it's to die for. You guys, I can't wait for you to make this. I'm gonna finish chewing my bite, grab the recipe below, and I'll see you next time.